Hello, this is Scott Baceno and I'm at Computex 2008. Right now we're talking to Corsair on the 11th floor of the Hyatt. I'm talking to Paul McGuire, who's a worldwide VP of sales at Corsair. Yeah. We're having a channelly discussion, just talking about the memory market on the whole. And we were just talking about the state of the market on the whole, Paul, and you were telling me that right now one of the key issues for the channel is whether or not to recommend or build in 2 gigs versus 4 gigs of DDR2, is that right?
We've seen the OEMs kind of migrating with the cost of memory coming down. They've migrated from introducing 1 gig in their systems to putting the 2 gigs in their systems. And so the question is, well, what is the next step after that? Do people really need to go up to the next level of 4 gigs? Mm-hmm. And so what we've been doing is looking at that, looking at what type of difference it makes, with certain applications, especially with our market niche of the gamers, enthusiasts, to see what type of difference does it make if they put 4 gigs instead of 2 gigs in their systems. And it's been pretty dramatic, actually. And so we've tried to turn that around, offer it as a bit of PR news that it really does make a difference. For an extra $40 to $60, you can make a pretty dramatic improvement on your software play, on your interaction with your games, if you put in that 4 gigs of memory.
We got a doubling of the amount of memory for, let's say, $40 to $60, so 20 to 30 pounds or so. Yeah. How do you think that compares? As a consumer, I think it would be a compelling argument if I knew that my 20 to 30 extra pounds bought me more performance advantage from spending it on memory versus spending it on a slightly more expensive CPU or GPU. Right. What do you think about that?
The question is, what can you get on a graphics card? What can you get on a processor upgrade? And it's not a lot. So for your bang for buck, as they say, there's definitely a significant advantage, significant performance advantage for that 20 or 30 pounds by upgrading your memory. In fact, you're doubling your memory for very, very little. And I think that's the key advantage that we're talking about.
This sort of message from you, is it directed sort of primarily at system builders, or also would you like to see sort of retailers and resellers sort of push the actual modules a little bit harder?
I think there's history in the past where, with the operating systems, we've now got Vista running. Most of the systems we've tested are Vista-based. There's a big play now as to, well, will 4 gigs be recognized in the system? And the reality is with Vista, with the 64-bit operating system, that limitation has gone away. Okay. So now we have a situation where with 4 gigs, it's fully playable. You can go to 8 gigs if you want. Memory has never been cheaper as it is today.
Would I get any significant advantage from going to 8 gigs?
We didn't really focus on the testing on an 8 gig. There probably is some small difference, but definitely going from the 2 to 4, we noticed a pretty dramatic difference when we did play-by-play analysis on a 2 gig system versus a 4 gig system. It was just a dramatic. You didn't see all the pauses when you were looking at a video or a play on a gaming system with only 2 gigs versus it was just a smooth ride, a smooth video production on a system that had the 4 gigs. So we haven't done a lot of testing on 4 gigs. I think on 8 gigs. That's something we're going to probably look at in the future. But we're just also looking at the embrace of 64-bit operating systems. It's beginning to gain momentum in the market. It's not all there yet. All the pieces are kind of falling together relative to the drivers. The system's going out the door. We've talked to a number of retailers. They've seen the increase happening. We just like to see a lot more of it happen. For us, it's an important one because most of our business is upgrade business. So people are buying those systems with the 2 gig configuration. And for those who are building their own systems, most of those guys are definitely looking at the 4 gig. Yeah. There's that argument that we look at, which is on the total value of a system, be it $400 or $500 or be it 400 or 500 pounds. If you're looking at what percentage of your memory should be a percentage of the total cost of that system, memory is just so low right now. It's a good time to maximize as much as possible.
Okay, and talking about future-proofing, we were talking about the possibility of 8 gigs, and it's not necessarily that apparent why there's a need now. I gather, and I don't want to get too technical about this, so don't worry, but I gather when the Halem comes in, I think later on in the year it's expected, that's going to have a significant effect on the memory market. Can you just tell me a little bit more about that?
I should say the expedition of the 64-bit operating system, we're gonna expect to see the 8 gigs come more and more into play. Right now, we're seeing the DDR3 platforms are hitting the market. We're seeing a lot of introductions by the big OEMs like Dell and HP. We're seeing the underflow now of people building for the first time a lot of systems that are DDR3 related. So we're expecting that big push, and with that push, we're definitely expecting that 4 gig to be the minimum,
Yeah.
and people start looking at 8 gig and seeing what type of difference they're really going to see in performance-wise.
And is Nehalem going to provide quite a sort of uplift to the DDR3 market as well?
Absolutely. We've been, DDR3, any of these transitions from DDR1 to DDR2, DDR2 to DDR3, they don't happen overnight. It's not a pull of a trigger. We've got big fabs who have got, lines set up for DDR2. For them to convert over to DDR3, very expensive. It's not something they can flip very quickly. But once they go full force. So we've seen the pricing come down. We now got 2 gigs well below $100. Mm-hmm. That didn't happen before. 6 months ago, these things were selling for $200 to $300. So with that price coming down now we're talking about, hey, a year ago, we were paying $100 for 2 gigs of DDR2. So you can see that the time frame has been compressed considerably. And we're expecting that, with DDR3, more platforms, more motherboards coming out, it's going to be full on. We're still, still only probably a 10% of the market, but we expect that to.
So timescale wise, we reckon even by the end of this year, we're going to see it ramp right up.
It'll come. It may not be the main ramp. It'll still be heavy DDR2 platform still at that stage, but 09 is a DDR3 world. Yeah.
Okay.
For the most part. Hi, I'm Paul McGuire. I'm Vice President of Worldwide Sales for Corsair, and you're watching HEXUS TV.